We're Steve and Laura, and we are a retired couple who have decided to travel during our retirement. So, welcome and join us on We Flew.
We spent a week in St. Martin's. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the accommodations. Several years ago, we joined with a vacation group called Global Discovery Vacations, and they have properties throughout the world that you can stay in, and it costs like about $400 to stay for a week. And we got a place in St. Martin's, and we've got pictures that you can see how it looks and our view from there. We've found it to be good. Some of the locations we like better than others. We stay in one in Hawaii. We've stayed in several over the years, probably half a dozen. This one ranked probably kind of about average. You know, it's a beautiful setting. The accommodations were okay. We like having a kitchen, being able to cook for ourselves. So we wanted to show you when we stay in those. We want to show you what those are like, and let you judge for yourself whether Global Discovery Vacations might be something worth checking out. We're not getting paid anything by them. We're just members of them and enjoy them.
So, one of the things that everybody said we had to do when we were in St. Martin's was go to Maho Beach and see the airplanes land. So, as we were flying into St. Martin's, we noticed that we were flying right over a beach. So, one day we decided to head over we had a car, so we were able to drive to wherever we wanted to go, and we drove over to Maho Beach. It is an experience. These are not little Cessnas. These are the big 747s that are landing and taking off from that beach, and the blast is unreal. And there are signs everywhere saying, "Stay out of the blast zone." You know, you could get injured, but we still had to go and experience it for ourselves, and it was something quite amazing.
Yeah, you stand right by the fence, and when a plane is taken off, it comes. Sometimes it takes off over your head, and you watch it take off, and other times it's parked right in front of you, and then it goes away from you. And the ones that go away from you, you're standing there, and the engines rev up, and suddenly this blast of sand and hot air and exhaust or whatever, it just comes hitting you. Okay, the other thing about Maho Beach is there is a great restaurant. It's a really thin beach. It's not really good for laying out, but it's great for watching the planes. And there's this restaurant right next to it, a bar and grill, and it has a television screen with the departure and arrival times of all the planes, so that you can go and sit there and then run out to watch the planes come in. And great, it has that western face, so you can watch the sunset, and makes for beautiful pictures. In our travels around the island, we were trying to get a feel for everything. One of the things that we did is we saw the fort that was built in the 1600s, and we could walk around it. There's not very much left of it. The walls are low, but it was fun to see the history and learn a little bit about that. While we were there, we saw lots of wild animals.
Yeah, there was a pelican colony right there that we saw them flying over and see where they were nesting. And that was really cool.
Yeah, and iguanas. We saw lots of iguanas. So it was fun to see the wild animals and experience a little bit of the history and culture also.
One of the other things that we loved going to all the beaches. There were 37 beaches. There are 37 beaches on the island of St. Martin's. Some of them are not accessible by car. You would have to hike in. But we would go to, we would pick different beaches on different days and go visit those. One of the things too that I geeked out on was the cruise ships. Where we were staying, we were fairly close to the cruise port, and depending on the angle or where in the bay it was docked, I could see the cruise ships kind of sticking out there. The thing with that is we found that on the days when there was a lot of large cruise ships, everything was crowded. The beaches were crowded, the restaurants were crowded, the roads were crowded. But on the days where there weren't too many, it was fine. And then also if you went later in the afternoon to the beaches, like around 2, all the cruisers were heading back to the ship, and you'd have the beach and the restaurants to yourselves, which was really nice.
One of the nice things about the beaches and the restaurants is you could rent a chair and an umbrella for about $20 a day, a couple of chairs and an umbrella, and lay out and park there and have a lot of fun. The restaurants were wonderful. There were lots of food choices for just about any budget and palate. We had a lot of wonderful experiences. One of the fun things were the Lolos, and Laura's going to tell you all about those.
So we didn't know what a Lolo was at first, so I looked into it a little bit. So a Lolo was, it dates back to like the 1700s when they were colonizing the island, and they were warehouses, and it's where they would store on plantations, and it's where they would, it sounds awful, but it's where they'd store the slaves. So it was the slave quarters and then any merchandise that they were shipping in and out. Eventually, these became districts, and then they became villages, but the Lolos themselves, the warehouses, remained. And the reason they're called a Lolo, well, they became a restaurant. They would become a bar and a restaurant, and they were kind of a gathering place for the people in the village. But the reason they're called Lolos is because the currency was called a lot, and it just got shortened down to Lolo, which I thought was kind of interesting to learn about that. And we did see a lot of them. They're generally centered around a grill. Food always smelled so delicious and was good.
We went to a couple of higher end restaurants too. There was one called Chesterfield's. It was close to us on the Dutch side, and there were a lot of smaller yachts and
some really big yachts too.
And some big yachts. We had wonderful seafood. We walked around the marina after dinner, and looked at the yachts and dreamt about what it would be like to be on one.
Not to own one, just to be on one. They were pretty amazing. We also went to a place called Skipjack's. That was on the French side, also on the water. Not as many yachts, but just a beautiful, quiet location right on a marina. And the food there was amazing. It was so good. I think that was our best meal on the island, was at Skipjack's.
I think so. We had a tuna carpaccio. I had a local delicatessen.
A local dish.
A local dish called the red snapper, the whole red snapper, so the bones and everything.
Yeah.
But
And then I had scallops that were amazing. So it was a great meal. Enjoyed it.
we ate at a place called Shy Shack. It was on the French side, and it was frequented by the locals. We were the only English speakers there. We found the island, the division of the island, the French side and the Danish side. The Danish side definitely catered more towards the Americans. They took English money. U.S. money. They spoke English, while the French side sometimes it was a little more difficult to communicate. But everybody communicated well. But yes, sometimes the menus were only in French.
And they accepted euro. There was a really nice grocery store, though, on the French side that we went to called Super U, where it would look like a modern U.S. grocery store. However, everything was French. There was very little English, so you had to really look at the package and try to figure out what you needed. But it was a really nice grocery store.
So the one of the ways we want to end is we want to just kind of talk about the island in general. Do you feel like it was worth going to?
It is. I love St. Martin's. I would go back. However, there's so many islands in the Caribbean we haven't been to yet, so it probably won't happen for a while. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed St. Martin's. Beautiful island, great people.
Now, we were there for a week, so the other thing that's worth thinking about is when we go to a place, do we think that we experienced well enough? We saw it all, and certainly a week was enough time.
Yeah.
I don't know if one afternoon on a cruise ship would give you a good feel for both sides of the island and everything about it.